Good evening, here's Top News English newsletter starting with headlines. 30 US-led strikes hit Islamic State in Syria's Al-Raqqa. 50 ISIS jihadists killed in Kobani in 24 hours. Grenade explodes near mosque in Lebanon's Tripoli. And Iraq's divisions will delay counteroffensive on Islamic State. Welcome to details. A US-led coalition carried out at least 30 airstrikes in Syria against Islamic State militants in the northern province of Al-Raqqa on Saturday, a monitoring group said. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that the airstrikes hit Islamic State positions in the northern outskirts of Al-Raqqa city, a major stronghold of the hardline Islamic militants. The areas hit by the strikes included the 7th Division, a Syrian army base that Islamic State seized in July, the observatory added. At least 50 ISIS jihadists have been killed in the past 24 hours in clashes, suicide bombings and US-led airstrikes in Syria's Kobani, a monitor said on Sunday. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that the number of deaths was one of the highest daily tolls for the extremist group since it launched an assault on the strategic town on the Turkish border in September. In Lebanon, the army increased patrols in Tripoli on Sunday after an assailant threw a hand grenade near a mosque in the battered neighborhood of Bab al-Tabbana overnight. Security sources say that the grenade was thrown around 3 a.m. near the Harba mosque, damaging 2 cars but causing no casualties. The army immediately boosted its measures and its troops patrolled the area in search of the attacker. The small blast came 1 month after the army fought a first 4-day battle with Islamic militants in the neighborhood, reducing much of it to rubble. In occupied Jerusalem, an Iranian attack by suspected Jewish extremists targeting first-grade classrooms at a Jewish-Palestinian school in occupied Jerusalem sparked a wave of condemnation Sunday as months of racial tensions in the city showed little sign of abating. The attack took place on Saturday evening at the hand-in-hand bilingual school, which is a rare symbol of coexistence in the city fraught by division, which has seen growing friction between settlers and Palestinians who live in occupied East Jerusalem. Scrawled on the walls were offensive anti-Arab slogans in Hebrew reading, "Death to Arab," and "There is no coexistence with cancer," police said, describing the attack as a very serious incident. In Iraq, U.S. air support and pledges of weapons and training for Iraq's army have raised expectations of a counteroffensive soon against Islamic State, but sectarian rifts will hamper efforts to forge a military strategy and may delay a full-scale assault. The extremist Islamists stormed through the northern Iraq in a 48-hour offensive in June, charging virtually unopposed toward the outskirts of Baghdad, humiliating a US-trained Iraqi army which surrendered both land and weapons as it retreated. By contrast, even a successful effort by the government to dislodge Islamic State, also known as ISIS, from territory where it rules over millions of Iraqis would be fiercely fought and could stretch well beyond next year. The Baghdad government relies on the supporting fighters and Kurdish Peshmerga to contain Islamic State, a dependence which underlines and may even exacerbate the sectarian rivalry which opened the door for the summer offensive. In Afghanistan, Kabul's police chief resigned on Saturday, a police spokesman said, after the Afghan capital was hit by at least 9 militant attacks in the last 2 weeks. General Zahir told the Interior Ministry he no longer wanted to continue his job. The minister has accepted his resignation. Russia has delivered its 8th humanitarian aid convoy to war-torn eastern Ukraine, the Emergencies Ministry reported. Donetsk received over 800 tons of aid, while Lugansk got 400 tons. The deliveries were made by 100 trucks. Unlike the previous shipments, this one was inspected by the Ukrainian Customs Service before crossing the border. Previously, Kiev refused official inspections and stalled aid deliveries to the rebel areas. In the U.S., the white police officer who shot black teenager Michael Brown dead resigned nearly 4 months after the confrontation that prompted protests in the U.S. city of St. Louis and across the country. Darren Wilson, 28 years, had been on administrative leave since the August 9 shooting. His resignation was announced on Saturday by one of his lawyers, news agency and local newspaper, the St. Louis Dispatch, reported. And finally, from Turkey, Pope Francis said that the Islamic militants were carrying out a profoundly grave sin against God in Syria and Iraq, calling on Sunday for interreligious dialogue and action against poverty to help end conflicts there. The Pope spoke on the last day of his weekend trip to Turkey at a joint service with Patriarch Bartholomew I, spiritual head of the world's 300 million Orthodox Christians. Francis said that people of all faiths could not remain indifferent to the cries of the victims of the inhumane and brutal war next door. He also condemned Friday's attack on Muslim worshippers at the main mosque in northern Nigeria's biggest city, Kano, in which at least 81 people were killed. That's all for today. Thanks for joining us. I am Dima Yunus. Good night.